Uh, our next speaker for this session is Dr. Shushmita Roy, who has joined IISER Kolkata as an assistant professor at the Department of Chemical Sciences. Previously, she pursued her postdoc research at Rice University, USA. She has also been a visiting faculty at the Center for Theoretical Biological Physics, Rice University. Dr. Roy and her group mainly focuses on topics like nucleic acid structure function, RNA regulation related to viral bacterial infections, etc., using fundamental concepts of theoretical physics, physical chemistry, and statistical mechanics. Today, she would be talking about development of structure-based model of complex biopolymer, decoding conformational landscape of novel coronavirus prefusion spike and bacterial riboswitches. So let us welcome Dr. Roy for the next talk. Ma'am,
Thank you. Thank you. Who is speaking? Actually, I can see you. Who is
I'm
speaking?
Ronak, ma'am.
Hello? You are?
I'm Ronak, ma'am.
Oh, Ronak. Yes,
Yeah,
yes, I know you. So thank you, Ronak,
yeah,
for such a lovely introduction. And thank you all the organizers for inviting me to Gangyo Students Chapter. Specifically, first of all, I would like to thank all the students. I can see your enthusiasm and I can see that how you are putting your effort. I can see the notifications, reminder, all on time. So it's a grand success. Specifically, I would like to thank all the leaders behind all this, Dr. Nilanjana Sengupta, Dr. Vidisa Sinha, and Dr. Dibjyoti Das, for making this visible. And because of them, we could celebrate Biophysics First Week, right? Saying that, I'm going to share my screen. All right. Just give me a moment. I'm making it full screen. Is it visible?
yes,
for
ma'am.
all of you? Okay. All right.
Ma'am, can you put it in full screen mode?
Yeah, I'm going there. Don't worry. Where is my cursor goes? Okay, just give me a moment. Oops. Am I sharing my screen? And I have to only go to
Yes, ma'am. Yeah,
full screen, right?
yeah.
Is it okay now? Hello?
It's still in the slide mode.
That's weird. I am making it full screen.
Ma'am, I think.
Yes,
I
Ronak,
think,
carry on.
yeah, ma'am, I think
F5. I
you need
made
to
F5.
do it in full screen mode. Then you need to present your screen.
Oh, okay. So that's the problem actually last time also. Oh, I understand. Okay. Stop sharing. Making full screen first. It's not letting me to go there if I make it full screen. Nilanjana, can you help me?
Ma'am, this is Preeti. You need to share your presentation by selecting your entire screen, and then if you go to
I
your
see.
presentation mode,
Entire screen.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Now it will work.
Yes, it's coming.
Is it fine now?
Yes, ma'am. It's okay.
Thank you.
All right. Just give me a moment. Oh, wow. Okay. All right. So the topic of my today's work, where I'm going to talk about our recent development of structure-based model of complex biopolymer.
Ma'am, can you
yes.
hide that notification in your screen, please?
That stop sharing one.
Yeah, click that hide option. Okay.
Is that fine?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So specifically, I will focus on decoding conformational landscape of novel coronavirus prefusion spike. And if I get time, I will touch upon bacterial riboswitches. Okay. Now, we are in a current pandemic situation, right? When we are realizing that a small viral protein called spike protein of coronavirus is evading our cellular system. We are finding a small viral protein like RNA-dependent RNA polymerase. It's a small, viral protein, RDRP protein is hijacking our transcription program. And the whole life form of human race is at stake, right? So it is clear that somewhere or other, we understand very, very less the basis of this central dogma. You can follow my cursor here, right? The beginners in the biophysics community, for them, in a very simple description, what do we mean by central dogma? Where DNA makes protein by transcription process and RNA makes protein by translation process. And this information flow, DNA to RNA to protein, they run on in a feedback mechanism. Okay, so now, when we understand that, well, these are the three key components of central dogma, we need to understand one thing, that these three are complex biopolymers. And this biopolymers actually fold in a particular shape. Sometimes they shape in a compact 3D form to function, right? So now, when they fold or take a shape to function, we need to understand what are the underlying challenges in the structure-function relationship of this biopolymers. Now, if we have a bird's overview, we can see the underlying challenges. Couple I have only mentioned here. You can see that these three biomolecules are actually very dynamic molecule apart from DNA. The DNA is comparatively less dynamic than RNA and protein. So because RNA and protein, they are highly flexible in nature, it's very, very difficult to characterize their functional potential energy landscape. Specifically, I'm talking about those functional states. Those are sparsely populated or transient in nature in my potential energy landscape. Second, I would again specifically mention that DNA, RNA, and some of the intrinsically disordered protein, they are highly charged polymer. And they are associated with some complex electrostatic phenomena. Some of them are long-ranged and highly correlated. Currently, for example, I can tell you one of this electrostatically driven phenomena, for example, counter-ion condensation. Okay, so this counter-ion condensation phenomena or electrostatically driven phenomena, these are hard to probe both in silico, I mean computational experiment, or in vitro experimental technique. So what are the ways to really understand them? Third, I would like to tell you the challenges. Folding of this biopolymer, understand this, is a large length scale and long time scale phenomena. Computationally, therefore, this complex biological processes are rather less explored. So to probe such multi-scale phenomena, often we do a molecular dynamic simulation, for which we need a computer cluster or supercomputer. But for this big molecule, the supercomputers often fall short to sample the structural landscape with all atomistic detail. So to understand this large protein or RNA machinery, what we realized, our team realized, that the necessity of smart coarse graining approach, where one represents the model delineating only the essentiality, smartly, very appropriately reducing the number of degrees of freedom by which now we can actually think about simulating or studying much bigger system, much longer time scale phenomena. So in this spirit, today I'll talk about our cutting-edge coarse graining structure-based modeling approach that helps us to explore the complete conformational energy landscape of full-length prefusion spike of novel coronavirus that we have developed for the first time. I don't need to mention that, but particularly in this problem, I would encourage, because this is a student chapter, please student, I'm encouraging you again and again, don't hesitate to ask question, because your question help us to better understand. Can you see me, by the way? Can you see me?
Ma'am, your video is turned off, I think. Oh, no. Yes, we can see you.
What happened? Can you see the screen? Sharing?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so what I'm going to tell that this, in the first topic, I need your help, because your question help us better understand the game strategy of this coronavirus. And if I get time, I would touch upon this particular topic where we are trying to develop a generalized Manning counterion condensation theory and model for highly charged polymer like RNA. So now to begin with, if we look back in last 2019 in December, China notified the World Health Organization about several cases of human respiratory disease, right? The disease later named as COVID-19. It doesn't need any introduction. We all know coronavirus because we are still now in a pandemic situation, right? So we all know who is the accused one. Now, as this virus causes severe acute respiratory syndrome, it is also popular with the name as SARS-CoV-2. Now, you can ask me that why 2? Because in 2002, same coronavirus genus caused an epidemic situation over 26 countries across the world. That time, it was first named as SARS-CoV. In 2012, again, coronavirus from same genus called named as MERS-CoV, means Middle East respiratory syndrome coronavirus, threatened Saudi Arabia and the nearby territory. It actually still continue to cause a local outbreak out there. Now, as the name corona, in Latin, it means crown. Now, all these coronaviruses, adopt a similar strategy where they used a crown-shaped small protein machine called a spike protein, I will show you, to enter the host cell by binding to the host cell receptor. Okay, so you can see that this is called a receptor which named as angiotensin converting enzyme 2, ACE2. And in most affected region like blood vessels, kidney, GI tract, these receptors are abundantly found. With this receptor, spike binds very well. In fact, a recent binding affinity analysis reported that SARS-CoV-2 spike has 10 to 12-fold higher binding affinity. Who are working in this field, they would can relate this number, has 10 to 12-fold higher binding affinity to ACE2 receptor than SARS-CoV-1. In addition, a recent cryo-EM study also made available one of the ACE2 binding competent conformation of SARS-CoV-2, with which spike binds very well. But this is just one conformation they could resolve. So before we understand spike function, let's take a look how a spike protein molecule in reality look like. Okay, so you can see that spike is actually made up of 3 intertwined chain. Okay, and this intertwined chain that have identical amino acid sequence, and each of this chain is called a protomer. So this 3 protomer, there are 3 protomers, and 3 protomers has equivalent amino acidic sequence. Now, if you see this trimer, apparently you will say that this protomer do not have identical structure. If you see one of them, this is the cryo-EM structure that has been recently resolved. Okay, they don't have identical structure. One of them, this blue guy, is actually turned up, right? But if you split out these two, you can see there are two representative protomer, and one can identify each protomer has several domains. I would specifically would encourage you to see the color code here, and specifically would highlight one of the important domain where this ACE2, this receptor binds, called receptor binding domain, or RBD. Okay, apart from this RBD, there are two more extended domain. This blue domain is called N-terminal domain, NTD, and the S2 stalk. This forms the stem of this trimer, if you see here as well, or here as well. So if you see this two protomer, okay, you can see that actually they can generate a down and up conformation. Now, that means what? That each of the protomer can actually form this up and down conformation, and by which they can form this RBD up or RBD down conformation. This is actually called a hinge motion. Now, this kind of intrinsic hinge motion you will find in many multi-domain protein, okay, where a protein is found to breathe to form a open, close, or up-down conformational dynamics. So the first simple question we ask here that if each protomer contains the same amino acidic sequence, then RBD of each chain should have the potential to attend both up and down conformation dynamically, haven't they? That I told you, right? So this cryo-EM is merely a static picture. So to understand the dynamic picture or the conformational dynamics at the microscopic level, we thought what best can be than performing a molecular dynamic simulation. So when we thought about this possibility, we took a pause. We just sweated, just counting the total number of amino acid of this whole trimer actually counts. It's means altogether amino acid is 1120 for each protomer, and if we really sum up the whole for the trimer, the whole atom number that we have to really simulate, it's around 26,163 around, if I'm remembering correctly. So now when we decided to at this point of time, it was like beyond our imagination. Whatever tool we had at our hand, means the coarse graining classical tool that we had in our hand, it was impossible. Rather, we thought that, well, let's take a minimalist approach on the coarse graining method to understand the large length scale hinge motion. Large length scale hinge motion by a classical coarse graining method or using a minimalist approach. So here we just simulated a single protomer, and again here I will emphasize that our objective here was to capture only the large length scale hinge mechanics of this giant machine, at least at that level. So the state of the art of this coarse graining we have adopted here is structure-based model, where at the C alpha resolution limit, because of this, the large length scale. And the coarse graining approach that we have adopted, structure-based model, when I say that in the biophysics community, suddenly you will remember that what I mean is actually structure-based model is the origin of protein, is originated from protein folding theory. Okay, so protein folding theory, all we know, energy landscape view, but the basic concept or a very simplified concept of structure-based model actually holds the viewpoints of energy landscape, which follows the principle of minimal frustration that you can see. So the simple version of structure-based model says that the functional dynamics of native protein share the energy landscape that guides folding into the native state. So what we are saying that in other words, that if we can generate an information, topological information rather, from the folded protein, then we can expect to retrieve or extract the other low-lying functional intermediates from this potential energy landscape. And saying this simple version of a structure-based model, we actually could now write the simple expression of structure-based Hamiltonian, which contains only two components. One is local and another is non-local part. The local actually describes all the bond, angle, dihedrals, that describes a flexible polymer. You all know probably. And the essence of structure-based model is underlies in this contact form. Okay, so the contact, by which we mean that when two amino acid residues at the C alpha resolution limit I'm talking about are in certain distance cutoff. Okay, by which we mean that two amino acid are in contact when they will come to the certain distance that we have described in terms of cutoff. Okay, so now, as I said, that when the contact, which will form the contact pair, when we will account them in terms of contact, the others will be excluded as a non-contact, and we will describe them as an 12 excluded potential. That means we could very smartly reduce our degrees of freedom and could identify in an enhanced molecular dynamic simulation method that what would be the potential energy landscape of a very big system size biopolymers. So now with this classical structure-based Hamiltonian, when we started simulating a single chain, although when we observed RBD breathing modulated by RBD cleft interaction, cleft by which we mean that the hinge motion, okay, the hinge motion, but the breathing was not sufficient to bend the whole S1 domain up and down, like what we have observed for each protomer being in the trimeric association. So you can see the graph we got, there is a hinge motion for a single chain, but at the same time, we have identified that there are two possible motions that may arise in the structure of trimer. One is internal RBD cleft motion, okay, cleft motion or hinge motion, and another is RBD bent motion generating S1 head up and down state. Okay, with this head up and down state, when we tried to understand, it was not feasible, right? Because we need interchain connection. Because the cleft motion, remember, the cleft motion like this, so it is primarily driven by intrachain contacts, right? And the bent motion, when it has to interact with the other chain, so you need interchain contact. But if we are simulating only single chain, how we can get the interchain, right? So to understand, we realize that to understand the cleft and bent motion and their coordination for the whole trimer, it was very essential for us to now take up the challenge, go beyond our comfort zone, and to build a model that was that can tackle this trimeric problem. Okay, here classical structure-based model was not any more adequate at the C alpha resolution limit. With C alpha resolution limit still we can work on, but we need to cook up some smart approaches, some smart information-based trick that we have adopted. So with that, we have developed a supersymmetric contact map, and the development has two steps. First, generating unique contact information for each protomer, and second, feed the Hamiltonian with all possible information, which after all dictate the thermodynamic stability of any emergent state. So the unique information that we generated by building the supersymmetric contact map, where you can see the flow chart. So in a long story short, from the supersymmetric contact map, we have isolated unique intra and interchain contact and symmetrized for all ABC chain. Similarly, interchain contact map was generated from a prototypical asymmetric pairs like AB, BC, and CA dimeric interface, and from the prototypical AB or BC or CA, when we have retrieved those dimeric interfacial contact, we have symmetrized for all AB, BC, CA with those unique contact information. By the way, here I have to mention that the contact we have calculated using a very specialized approach, which we call shadow technique. Okay, so the here is the reference. You can find out the reference for the how we usually use shadow criteria. Okay, using a laser kind of beam. So anyway, I'm not going into the detail of that. That is a very specialized technique. But with this approach, we could actually isolate all the unique and shared contact and the contact map that I would like to show you, where we could actually filter out all the contacts that have been highlighted. And specifically, I would like to highlight the interchain contact that we need now to bend down the whole S1 head to the S2 stalk of the chain B and C. So this interchain contact and another interchain contact, that RBD of one chain, just give me a moment. না আমার পক্ষে পসিবল নয়, I cannot talk এখন না, এখন হবে না, আমি কি মুশকিল, sorry. Okay, so he was continuously knocking. So the development includes this development actually gave us this contact map, and with which we could now filter out the interchain contact, where you can see that we could actually retrieve the interchain for the bent motion. You can see that how S1 domain is interacting with the S2 stalk, and the blue S1 head actually have an adjacent contact formation with the next chain NTD domain. Okay, so the next part of our development was feeding all this intra and interchain contact to the overall Hamiltonian of our construct. So that we have done, you can see that, and this overall Hamiltonian, when we have developed, we have actually integrated our equation of motion using Langevin dynamics, using under damped condition for rapid sampling. So this is a little bit of detail that I'm skipping. Okay, so now before we actually go further and analyzed, we had to gain the confidence of the model. I mean, whether the model that we have constructed for the trimer is working or is reliable or not. Okay, so we have done some benchmark analysis. For example, that we have seen that whether RMSD of each protomer is coming in the correct ballpark limit of the experimental result or not. For example, we have also characterized that it is sensing temperature appropriately, giving all the structural transition or not, or whether the temperature is also modulating the hinge motion or not. Okay, so when we gain the reliability of the model, then only we could enjoy RBD breathing dynamics for the whole trimer. And you can see that this RBD hinge motion is very nicely giving you the idea, but it will stay sometime, the bent one, and then it will go up after some time. Yes, you check that? Okay, so this way you can see. So there is up and down motion that you can follow. And this I call for the full length RBD. This is called a spike dance that was, got very famous. And then you can see that how the RBD is being exposed and actually being its exposure, ACE2 could interact with it, okay, of the host cell. So when we actually analyze the long time trajectory, we actually could calculate the fraction of native contact taking as only interchain contact. And if you see that in the long time trajectory, you can see that there is a hop between different structures of RBD head 1 interchain contact and S down interchain contact. For both of them, they have a hopping between different state. And when we have actually calculated the conformational energy landscape, you can see this in the contour. So you can see that there are many transitions between different states, and predominantly we have found out there are 4 states, but among them 1 up 2 down is the most populated. And this is what cryo-EM actually could find out, this as the major populated structure, which is 1 up 2 down. You can see this symmetric, which we mean by this maintaining C3 symmetry of 3 down and 3 up, and the in between you can see the asymmetric structure where 2 up, 1 down, and 1 up, 2 down states. So among these conformations, the our newly resolved 2 up 1 down emerges as the best binding epitope for the antibody, 2 antibodies CR3022 and UI6A collected from COVID-19 patient, which is a highly neutralizing SARS-CoV-2s, and we feel great that they are citing us. So it's a we feel that it's a good contribution. Now here we actually analyzed something very amazing. So these are 3 cryo-EM structure, so which actually raises our curiosity far more than only analyzing SARS-CoV-2s. Here we have compared the cryo-EM structure of SARS-CoV-2, SARS-CoV, and MERS-CoV coronaviruses. And if we really analyze, then what we have seen is amazing, that RBD of 1 chain, in case of SARS-CoV-2, RBD of 1 chain and N-terminal domain of the next chain is closely associated via 2 kind of interaction that we have observed. One is 1 chain's proline is making a CH-pi interaction with the another next chain's tyrosine, and the same proline is actually making a hydrophobic interaction with the next chain proline. So we measured the proline-proline interaction, and we found that, well, of course, we need some measurement, some number. So we found that RBD NTD association is really close than when we observe the same distance for SARS-CoV and MERS-CoV is far apart. So we took one of the representative between SARS-CoV and MERS-CoV, and we have chosen MERS-CoV, where in RBD NTD association is far apart. Okay, it is RBD NTD domains are far apart. And when we have compared with this, here we have calculated the free energy of bending, how they are getting modulated when there is RBD NTD association is there or isn't there. Okay, for SARS and for MERS. So when we check that, we found that there is a new state which is NTD assisted up state. You can see that this NTD, oh my God, sir. So this NTD assisted up state, the stabilization is not here for MERS-CoV. So free energy calculation predict that indeed RBD NTD interactions significantly stabilizes the receptor binding competent S1 head up state for SARS-CoV-2s. So this is an amazing result that we found. One can check that experimentally as well. So we have also calculated the pathway for SARS and MERS, and you can see that in case of SARS, the process from down to up or up to down is always intervened by via NTD assisted up. Okay, but in case of MERS, there is a scattered pathway. Okay, the scattered pathway in case of SARS-CoV-2 we can also get. You can see this here. If we delete those NTD RBD association from our Hamiltonian, means we have to reconstruct the topological map. So here you can see that in case of in the absence of such interchain RBD NTD association, the RBD mostly stays in the down conformation, allowing RBD to break the symmetry rarely in a stochastic manner. You can see this red curve here. So if you delete this, then only in a stochastic manner you can see that things are getting down, the hits are getting down. We have also performed mutagenic predictions or mutagenic analysis. Well, by the way, so all this free energy calculation was done by Akhilesh Jaishwar, my student. I should not forget them, to thank them particularly. They did all this work during pandemic. They were very, very patient and were in the lab all the time. And Raju Sarkar, who did all this mutagenic analysis, what we actually did, we aligned all the, we compared SARS, MARS, and bat coronavirus, and specifically looked into the RBD NTD interfacial region. And we found a single histidine is very unique. I'm not sure about that what's the role of this histidine, but we found it very unique. Now it's actually our future goal. One has to look into that. If one mutate this histidine, so this is, I'm addressing to the experimentalists, that if you can check that this we found actually unique in the interface, because one thing we found that RBD NTD association is very, very important for keeping RBD up. Okay. This
sorry to interrupt you, ma'am.
Yes, I don't have time, right?
We have 10 more minutes, I think.
Thank you. So, well, I will be wrapping up quickly. So this UP recipe is very, very important nowadays for vaccine designing, that I must tell you. So summing up, our study develops a supersymmetric contact map and symmetry information loaded Hamiltonian. The study decodes conformational dynamics of the energy landscape of SARS-CoV and MERS-CoV spike protein. Our newly resolved 2-down upstate asymmetric conformer emerges as the best binding epitope for these two antibody collected from SARS COVID-19 patient. The study finds RBD NTD close interaction significantly stabilizes S1 head upstate in case of SARS-CoV-2 spike protein, and our study also identified few key residues or hotspot in the interface of RBD NTD that has potential to affect the dynamics and thermodynamics of S1 head upstate, which is very, very crucial for effective vaccine designing. So now I will just touch upon the development of generalized Manning counter uncondensation, but I don't have much time. So I will just give you a very brief description of what we do. So, you know, this information flow that I was talking about, so in this information flow that we all know, but have we ever thought about that such information flow, in such information flow, regulation or control is of course necessary, because in a transcription cannot go for go continuously, or translation, that also needs to be controlled at some point. So is the gradient, or there are somebody or some, you know, biological molecule that play an important role in this gene expression, and it's there. In case of bacteria, it's called riboswitches. Riboswitches actually controls this genetic information flow, both at the transcription and translational level. Okay, they control the RNA translation, means decide when to start, when to stop. They decide the translation, when to start, when to stop. And how they do that? Riboswitches senses the cellular environment by recognizing high concentration level of metabolite or excess biosynthetic enzyme production, and inhibit their excess production through a large conformational rearrangement in response to the metabolite binding. And this technology, or this natural phenomena, actually help us to represent a promising drug target and developing new antibiotics. Okay, so I'm not going into the detail of this, but you got the idea. But as these are, you know, riboswitches are RNA, so one thing is very important to note here, that among different prevalent metal ion in our periodic table, or rather in our cellular system, nature has chosen magnesium particularly for the structural stabilization of RNA. Now, why? That you can resolve your curiosity, but I can give you the clue is charge by radius ratio. Okay, So anyway, but there are many challenges that how we can really deal with such magnesium interactions with phosphate. But in real system, we have competition between different ion. When divalent ion is there, which is very essential for RNA structural stabilization, but at the same time, monovalent ions are also there, which is prevalent in terms of concentration. Okay, so the physiological concentration of monovalent ion is around 100 to 150 millimolar level, and magnesium is 1 to 2 millimolar. So you can understand that we need both of them. And let me tell you that this ions, when they are at particular intermediate concentration range, they actually develop a very interesting phenomena called counter-ion condensation. What they do, that RNA, you can think of, it's a highly charged array. Okay, and when two similar charges come comes closer beyond what should be their thermal equilibrium, which we call Zerome length, then the opposite charge, or we call counter ion, condense in the vicinity. Okay, now so this is a coupled phenomena, and this collective phenomena or coupled phenomena, which is coupled to RNA dynamics, that we are trying to model using this counter ion condensation model. But you have to, here it's a little bit complicated. I cannot give you the overview within 5 to 10 minutes. But anyway, we developed based on the platform of structure-based model, asking the question that, well, if you have two alternate structure of RNA, then whom will magnesium favor? And our finding actually says that up to 4 millimolar level, we found that transcription off state is getting stabilized, and beyond 4 millimolar, transcription on state of the RNA is actually taking the control over transcription. So long story short, that the study develops generalized Manning counter-ion condensation theory and model. The study finds the relative stabilization of transcription off state, which varies non-monotonically as we increase magnesium. Higher magnesium concentration shifts the equilibrium to the on state, and the resulting magnesium-mediated transcription control or attenuation might help in controlling drug-dependent transcription attenuation by non-coding RNA. So this is the way we are actually looking into dynamic biopolymer, I would say, from the both this viewpoints. One is where electrostatic, when we only have to look into the large length scale and long time scale phenomena, but we are going to the complex regime where electrostatic is also a good, is a player, essential player. And in all our computational methodologies, we are using statistical mechanics. In one way, we are developing cutting-edge computational methodologies, understanding important biophysical phenomena, and again coming back where we are incorporating or improving those computational methodologies in a feedback manner. So this is the group, but this is our group, but I would like to invite, as we have a lot of students here, I would like to invite all the students that you apply at IISER Kolkata as a regular PhD, for a regular PhD program, and let's enjoy coffee and coding together. Okay, with that, thank you all for your kind attention.
Thank you, Dr. Roy. Thank you. That was a very much insightful talk. We have 3 questions here,
Sure.
But since we are running a little bit late, maybe you can answer them 1 or 2. The first question is from Dhiman Rai. He has asked, SBMs are usually biased towards the crystal structures based on which the native contacts are computed. So how reliable is the free energy surface, as the non-native state may be underrepresented?
So one thing actually we have seen, Dhiman, I can refer you one paper of Cecilia Clementi and Jose Onochik. So we have seen that native contacts are the player for energy landscape to be modulated. Non-native contact have very less contribution unless it's a very, very flexible molecule like IDP, okay, where non-native has a very good contribution. So here we have to understand one thing, that not every model is perfect and every model is applicable to every biomolecule. For example, like if kind of experimental technique, that if you think that your crystal structure would be the functional state, no, it's not true. Okay, so to turn on dynamics, you need to do NMR or some kind of other biophysical experiment, right? So you need to understand that which method is applicable to whom. When we have compact biopolymer, which has a compact 3D shape where native contacts are the dominant player, then structure-based model is very, very good. Okay, but when the dynamic molecule like intrinsically disordered protein or RNA like RNA, we are taking the influence, we are actually going beyond native basin in case of RNA. So we are making a perturbative model where we are giving some weightage to the native basin, but then making a perturbative model. Does that answer your question, Dhiman? All right, we can go to the next question, Ronak. Can you help me reading that?
Ma'am, since we are running out of time, maybe you can answer them in the chat
I can
box.
answer them personally. That's a good idea. Okay.
So Ananya Mandal has posed a question for you, and there are another two questions. One from Ganges student chapter from Preeti, and another is from Tanmay Ghosh.
Okay.
So if you kindly answer
I
them.
will look into it and I will personally write on the chat box. Is that fine?
Yeah, that would be very much fine.
All right.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Roy. That was a
Bye.
very insightful talk, and